Hey everybody, just wanted to do a quick update on my 40 breeder here. This was formerly known as my African tank, and then after that it became my Black Ghost Knifefish tank, and I recently lost my Black Ghost Knifefish, so it is now just going to get called my 40 breeder, because if I name it after another fish and I lose that fish, I'm tired of changing names on this tank. So I'm just going to keep the same playlist. I'm just going to change the name of the playlist, and instead of being my Black Ghost Knifefish tank, I'm simply going to start calling this my 40 breeder, even though I do have two other 40 breeders. One is my purple spotted gudgeon tank, and one is my brackish tank that Butterbean lives in. Those two are both 40 breeders as well. But this is the first one I ever bought, so we're just going to call this one my 40 breeder from now on. So when I got done doing the treatment, didn't go as expected because of the lack of water circulation. I did a blackout on the tank. I didn't treat it with any kind of chemicals or anything. But when I turned the lights back on, I'd lost my Black Ghost Knifefish. I shot some video about that, so I'm not going to go into any kind of detail about that again. But when all was said and done, I wound up having a lot of that green hair algae was all over everything, and my blackout didn't really make much of a difference at all. So what I did was I went up into my office tank where I've got guppies in there breeding, and I scooped up a net full of little baby guppies and little Endler's hybrids, and I put them in here because they are great algae eaters. I don't know whether they like the hair algae or not, but I've been kind of waiting to see. I haven't done anything with this tank since I pulled my Black Ghost Knifefish out. I did a little water change, maybe a 30 or 40% water change, just since there had been a dead fish in there for a couple days. I didn't change the filter. I didn't do anything. Now, I also have not turned both lights back on. I'm only running the one light for the time being. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. I'm waiting to see how much work I'm going to need to do as far as whether I should pull that fern out. You know, that's got a lot of that algae growing on it, so if I just yank that right on out of there, it just removes it physically from the tank, and that's that much less I have to worry about. So that's a possibility, but I'm also kind of curious to see how big of a difference these handful of guppies have made that I've thrown in there, and I'm actually considering getting a couple of other live bearers, maybe some mollies or platies or something that are a little larger. I really do think I'm seeing a significant difference. Now, I suppose it's possible that the blackout had done some damage to the algae, and over the last few days, as time has gone on, a lot more of it's being sort of killed off, or it's just kind of fading away, but I don't think that's the case. It looked vibrant and green when I turned the lights back on, and even when I tried to pull it out physically by hand, it was still tough and stringy. It was not, it didn't come out as though it was just dead and limp in my hand. So I'm thinking that as soon as the light came back on and it started photosynthesizing again, it came right back with a vengeance, and I just had it everywhere. And as you can see now, I don't. Now, obviously, it's still in there. This does not look like a lovely, beautiful tank. It's got that green, furry stuff all over everything. But as of a couple days ago, if you saw it, it looked like some kind of Halloween witch's wig. It was just green strands of stringy stuff all over. And it's just not anymore. And the only thing I can chalk that up to is the addition of all these little live bears. And as you can see, I've got a female in there. I think I tried to put a couple females in there, because if you ever buy a female guppy, even if you don't buy a male, if you buy a female, she's probably already pregnant when you bought her, and you'll just have endless guppies for the rest of your life if you just buy a single female. Now, if you buy a male and a female, then you'll definitely have guppies forever, unless you decide to separate them or something like that at some point. But in my experience, even if you separated them, that female's just basically loaded up for the rest of her life. She's just going to keep dropping babies. So I don't have any shortage of live bears to put in tanks like this. And again, I'm kind of fascinated by how rapidly they're getting this tank cleaned up. So I'm going to let it ride for a couple more days. The water's fine. The low lighting is not hurting anything. The air stone in there is not hurting anything. In fact, I can just pull the air stone out. I've just been too lazy to bother to get around to doing it. But until I actually get that filter sort of situated and get my power head and the water circulation and all that a little more squared away, just better safe than sorry. I'm going to go ahead and leave that air stone in there. Again, it's not hurting anything. I don't particularly like the way it looks, but this tank is not really, on the top of my list of tanks I'm standing here admiring at the moment anyway, so having some air bubbles in there is not going to be that big of a deal for me. So make sure you're subscribed, and then that way you won't miss the updates I do, and you won't get to you won't miss the progress that these little guppies are making on all of that algae in there. So again, I'm really curious to see how well they're going to do that, and you too will be. If you're subscribed, you won't miss it. So thanks again for watching this one. Don't forget, this one is now my 40 breeder, and I'll see you real soon in the next one. Thanks again.